That's why. All right. I'm going to go with what I got. So, there.
Do people still forget to turn off their computers at 8 o'clock?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. It's very sad. Makes me sad.
I would think, like, after the first 2 weeks, I mean, I would understand, like, oh, maybe this one guy was distracted, this late, but really, like it's a consistent thing, but still.
I think we've got 12 questions this week. 12. Lovely questions. All right. There's even fewer of you this week. Fantastic. All right. So, well, there are people filing in slowly. Slowly. All right, so we'll start with a conversation topic.
How do you feel about the
Blade Runner trailer. You know, it's okay. It's okay. It didn't show me enough to tell me anything. It didn't have any story to it. So yeah, right. What about it? Yeah, it's another one that didn't quite really tell you very much. It's like, okay, she pushes down on the ground. You see little pebbles float. It's like, yeah, okay, you know, there's something. There's a close up of Adam Driver with the damn crossbar blading against his face. It's like, okay, and Finn is apparently in a coma. Spoiler alert. Yeah. So okay. So yeah, exactly. It's like the story elements are very there's not much to it. You get that it's you know, there's The Last Jedi is the subtitle, and so you've got some notion as to what it's going to be about. But yeah, it was very trailerific. I did watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Yeah, it came out last weekend. Was you know, in my opinion, not quite as good as the first one, because what are you gonna do? No. Part of it is it's always here's the thing. The first time you tell a story, so this is why The Matrix is always better than The Matrix Reloaded. Okay, it's the same problem. First time you introduce brand new characters that really very few people know about, it's really, really engaging, and you absolutely fall in love. So it's that first flush of love for a new character. When you see the sequel come out, it's like, yeah, it's all right, you know. So, but very, very rarely does a sequel exceed its the original one. Star Trek being one of the few exceptions. No, I meant the original Star Trek movies, not the remakes. Second remake of Star Trek fell victim to it. It's like you watch the reboot of the Abrams Star Trek is like fantastic. The second movie, it's okay. So yeah, same problem. Yeah, and that's normal in narrative these days. The first time you encounter new characters, it's always exciting and new. The second time, unless there's something specifically really, you know, the only thing we had for this. Okay, so how many people haven't seen it? Spoilers, entries, and no. Okay, I won't spoil anything. It's worth watching if you care about the characters, but it's not the best sequel made. It does. It has some really awesome moments in it. It has lots of really good moments in it, and then it has a way more moments, and so that's why it's like.
It also has a really good villain.
was better than the other one.
Eh.
He was just.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Ronan was just.
La, 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 la. No, I know. If you see the first one, Ronan was a pouty, whiny boy, but he had this Infinity Stone. So yeah. I didn't make it. Damn it! I'm pissed. Yeah, because Mike was in here telling me how awesome it was, and I'm like, ugh. So yeah. I heard lots of. I mean, he was going on about the refugee film. Yeah, he was wiped out by that one. He said it was fantastic, and so now I'm like going, how do I get my hands on this? And then what was the other one? Was Rated? Was the one with stars over your head? So yeah, so but that's a trope that I've actually seen done before. So it was an interesting one. You know, there's been films where there's some kind of marker that is on you that tells you. You know, the original. So does anybody know the original one where you saw that? It was in the 70s. Film called Logan's Run. Okay, it's if you turn 30, you have a little thing on here that starts blinking red, and you have to go to carousel. Oh God, no! It's these days you watch it and it's like hilariously campy film. You know, it's just like, oh my God. But yeah, back before Star Wars, that was like, whoa, far out sci-fi, legit. You know. But yeah, and then Star Wars came along, and then everybody looked at Logan's Run and said, "What a piece of garbage." So it's an interesting trope. It's been done. You got to understand that's the other part about most narrative work is most story elements you've seen them before. That's why Guardians of the Galaxy 2. There was very little original in there, but it was enjoyable. I mean, I enjoyed it. I just didn't think it was that awesome. All right. Well, that was a fun intro. So good news is for everybody that was freaking out about this week. There was this homework assignment that I'm using air quotes around. Realistically, what I need from you guys to do for the next couple of weeks is I need you to watch these videos and kind of absorb them. And you're going to use these in your semester project. So I don't care to look over a homework assignment that you guys would struggle to get to me in a form that I could probably make sense of. So I'll make it easy. And so I'm not asking for any more homework for the next 2 weeks. So it's like this week, next week, and obviously final exam is the final exam. But so there's no more homework from me that you're going to turn in. Now, if you're behind on homework, that's another matter. So definitely, if you're not caught up, you got about another week to do your thing, because I'm not going to want to take late homework the final when you bring your final projects in. So yeah, that's the bad news, is that your semester project is due in 2 weeks. And so that's what I want you guys 100% focused on, so that you guys can be successful. If you have questions, I'm here until 10 p.m. Alyssa knows this very well. Well, she was here. Where is she? Oh, she just took off. All right. Well, Alyssa walked in and walked out. Yeah. All right. But anyway, she sits out after class and asks questions, and I am here office hours. I get that not everybody's available from 6 to 7. So, but I'm available definitely. If you have questions, ask. If you have questions about what homework you've turned in, I've got them right here. I can show you what I've got. And if I've got it, then and it's not in your grade book yet, that's fine. I'll get to it. If it is, if I don't have it, then that's another problem. All right. So everybody should be logging into the server, downloading this fine zip file, and unzipping the file to your desktop. It's a 2.7 gig file, so it takes just a little bit of time to download. And I'm sure that once 20 people or more start downloading it, it's going to cause a bit more, stress and strain on the file server. Okay. Oh man. Whew. Hello, dinner. Okay. So we're gonna we're going to leap into our next thing, which is our weekly Q&A bonanza. Don't forget to turn your computers off. There's still at least 2 or 3 computers on in this lab when I walk out, when I finished at the end of the night, which is better than the worst week was like there was like 8. I mean, that's a third of the computers in this room almost. So I was like, wait a second. All right. So round up. Boom, 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 boom. All right, we're home stretch. So yeah, as far as these questions go, I got a dozen this week. Last time I checked, there were more than a dozen of you in this class. So, you know, it's your points, man. All right, I'm done talking about it. Okay, must we put a video we filmed as a background of the DVD menu? Short answer is yes. The longer answer is it should be some content that you can legally use. So, all right, when you talk about the semester project and you know, when I talk about a motion background, this is kind of what we're saying, is that it does need to, there needs to be some kind of motion background to the menu. That's a video asset that you're going to load into your project and you're going to assign it. It needs to be a video clip separate from, say, it can't be a timeline or some other thing in your project. It has to be a separate video asset that you link in there, and it's going to play all the way through. So just be aware of that. And it should be content that you can legally use, meaning, you know, you shouldn't be using copyrighted material to do this. All right, moving on. This was a follow-up on the same person. So is only Photoshop able to make a DVD menu, and is it because Photoshop can be imported in separate layers? You can. So the short answer up there is no and yes. So the 2 answers to those questions are no and yes. But so the longer form is that you can make a menu from scratch in Encore. It is not pleasant to do, but it can be done. And the relationship between Photoshop and Encore is something we'll talk about more tonight in some detail. So don't sweat that part of it. When you first open, okay, there's a couple of these like really long ones. When you first open Encore on one of the college computers, you're getting this non-royalty serialized mode. What's the story with this? It needs to be serialized with the royalty-bearing serial number. So on these computers, understand that the licensing scenario is not what you're normally going to find on your own computer. These are all volume licensed, and it's so if you're the thing that you're seeing this, if you see this error come up or this warning, it should not prevent you from using Encore, but if it does, you should contact the lab staff. So that's why I chose to go ahead and answer this question, because even though it does qualify as more of the, hey, Randy, I can't sort of question that is a tech support related, it's important enough that if you guys feel that the computers here aren't able to help you finish the homework or finish your semester projects, if you do not have any other computer resource, then talk to the lab staff, put in a complaint or a question or a request, and they will work to support it. Yeah.
Will the computers be updated to the newest version, like the programs?
That usually happens over summer or winter break. I think that Karen in this lab, she's been doing it over the winter break, so they might still be running this. I'll ask her if she's doing if she updates them over summer, because yeah, I know there's a 2017.1 or something like that is what was it 0.2? Okay. Usually what they'll do is when they do update, they'll update to the very latest one, and I'm sure I'll be vexed by that, because there will be something that's changed that I won't have expected, and then I'll be like, my material's broken again. So yeah.
There's text files now. Everyone has text files instead of graphics and titles. So you can put a text right onto your sequence, but it'll automatically create adjustment layer, call the text layer, whatever it's titled. So it's like really cool.
Brave new world.
Yeah.
All right.
Like, if you don't know,
so you can basically create your roll credit by just editing a text file and then dropping it onto a layer and then animating.
Any text.
Hot tamale. I can hardly wait to see that one. That'll be good. That'll be fun. Well, man, because it's easy. If they're making it easier, that's the good news. So it's when they break stuff like, oh, by the way, Audition is horribly broken in the current release. So yeah, because that's the other part of this that's not awesome is when they break stuff. And if for any reason the lab computers got updated with a broken version of it, I would have to complain very loudly to get it updated. It could be done. All right. What's the difference between Media Encoder and Adobe Encore? Why they're in brackets is because the questioner had actually reversed it. It was Media Encore and Adobe Encoder, and I thought, no, maybe I'll correct that. So here's the difference. Okay, so the shortest answer I can give you: Adobe Media Encoder is just there for encoding and transcoding media from either from an input file that you give it, or from an Adobe app that outputs video to it, or video or audio. Audio works in Adobe Media Encoder as well. Encore is kind of a single-purpose tool for authoring a very specific kind of media, which is the interactive video disc. Okay, so it does include transcoding steps, and I do believe that Encore CS6 uses the Adobe Media Encoder CS6 to do it. But it's all happening under the covers, and you don't see it actually show up in the older Media Encoder. So don't. It's not one of those like, oh, you can author a DVD using just Media Encoder, because you cannot. There's certain aspects to it. There are ways to encode certain media streams because you'll see in there is a target in Media Encoder called Blu-ray H.264, and that is actually targeting a certain bit rate and level and profile for H.264 that basically provides the encoding that you would normally find on a Blu-ray disc, but that's not what we're talking about. That's just what it does. It doesn't do menus. It doesn't build a disk into an image that you can then burn to something else. When you check the box, write XMP ID to files on import. Does it modify the source file? So I did a little search. There is actually I'll summarize the eye chart here. The short answer is yes, it does modify the original source file. The reason it does is that it is writing the XMP ID is what they would call it's a universally unique ID. Okay, so it's basically a number, or if you want to call it a string of characters and letters that uniquely identifies that file, such that if Premiere encounters that media file, that source media, it doesn't matter what it's named. If you renamed it or you did other things, as long as that ID is in it, it's going to know what file that is based on the fact that that ID is unique. So you can rename the file to some other thing. You can copy it to another disk, and then if you load it into Premiere, it's still going to treat it like that original media file. So it's again, this does run into one of these bizarre exception cases that you have to sit down and stare into a mirror for a million years to kind of really grok how philosophical this next segment is here. But there's a school of thought, and I actually subscribe to it very much, about how the media that you shoot on cameras, whether it's digital or film, you should treat it like it is, and it is non. You don't want to touch it. You don't want to destroy it. You don't want to alter it, because if you do, you actually are you're degrading the possible the outcome of your footage. If you go in and you modify a video file that is that you've shot in camera, that's you'll never get those pixels back. You've shot them once. If you go and change it, then those pixels are gone. And so if you ever needed those pixels, then you're out of luck. Same with negatives. If you botch a negative, that film is ruined, and you'll never get it back. So, I treat them very similarly. The difference here, and why I think that this is a reasonably good exception, is that this is metadata that's being written to the file, as opposed to modifying the picture. It's adding some information to the file that doesn't modify the content within. So it's not re-encoding. It's just appending this data to the in the header of the or the trailer. I can't remember where it tucks this information to the media file itself. So that is not necessarily a bad thing. But there are people that say, don't ever do that. That's bad. Naughty, naughty, don't do that. So I'm just not one of those guys. So I can appreciate why they say it, but I just think that it is it's philosophical discussion. Great question, though. In Encore, is there a way to set up the project for 540p video? There appears to be only a handful of settings. Is there a way to customize the screen size? Well, the specific settings are actually there for a reason. They're well defined by the standards that these because they're supposed to be able to be played on video disc players everywhere. And so there's very limited range of acceptable formats that they'll let you do. So for DVD, it's primarily 480p or 480i, and it's going to be $29.97, interlaced, or sometimes you can get away with $29.97 progressive, but it's kind of a bodge. It's not really. Blu-ray is another matter. It'll do 1080p, 1080i, 720p, and a variety of frame rates. And so you just have to be aware of what those are. 540p is not one of them. But for the purposes of this semester project, you're not making a Blu-ray. You're making an NTSC DVD because it's smaller. That's a good thing. Because if you made it in a Blu-ray, your Blu-ray is going to probably be a couple of gigs in size. And, all you're going to do is you're going to copy it onto a disk. I'm going to load it off of this USB onto my drive, and then I'm going to load it up, look at it, and I'm going to close it down. And since we've had you do the project all in 540p, there's no real benefit to doing it in Blu-ray. So yeah, that's why I'm suggesting, because the flow, the process is significantly the same to do a Blu-ray or a DVD. So yeah, we'll do a DVD. Yeah.
So if we set it up 480p and we're going to be accessing the video that's 540p, will it resize into
Yes,
that?
it's going to do that in its transcode step. Okay. We'll talk a little bit about that if you want. That's fine. But that's not a bad question. That's a good question. Another good question. All right. Isn't there a quicker way to create a DVD movie with menus and everything in Adobe Premiere, or in Adobe Encore or Premiere? Well, not in Premiere. With the old iDVD on Macs, you could choose a pre-existing theme, and iDVD would do the rest. Of course they would. Yeah. So there are content libraries for Encore that you can download. In fact, I instructed you guys at the top of the class to download this content zip file off of the server that you can use for pre-existing menus and other things like that. But we're better than that, right? I mean, you don't want to use pre-existing stuff. Well, maybe you do. All right. So it's yes, there are pre-existing formats and menus and transitions and all this other stuff that you can get from this content library it's sitting out on the server, the file server, that will kickstart you into this, and you certainly can use it as a starting point to building your menu if you want. That's fine as well. We'll look at a project tonight that I have from a previous year that I think is a great example of how you can organize a project together. So yeah, we'll take a look at this. And so yeah, we'll talk about how to add this library content to your own Encore installation so that you guys can make use of it. Is it possible to use an animation from Photoshop in an Encore project? Only if you render it as a video. And then you're going to include it as either as a transition or as a background to a menu. Yeah, you could add an animation to a timeline, I suppose. So maybe I'm already lying to you, but there's no direct way to take an animation in Premiere or in Photoshop, because when Photoshop CS6, if you could do it in Photoshop CS6, maybe you could get it into Encore, but I don't think that facility existed in CS6. So I don't know. The way I understand it is you don't use Photoshop that way with Encore, because Encore is not that sophisticated. When importing stills into Encore, is there an optimal resolution for stills to be used for menus or slideshows, or does it depend upon which the disc will be presented on? So first off, who said you could do stills in Encore? No, you can't. This was the whole slideshow thing that I said I wasn't going to show you guys, and I'm still not going to show you. Is there is no if your still images are too small or too large for your target your target frame size for your project, whether that's 1080p project for Blu-ray or a 480i project for a DVD, Encore is going to resize it anyway. So, and if the aspect ratio isn't quite right, it's going to pillar box it or letterbox it so it all fits. So that's pretty much the answer to the story here. You can just import them into there. You're going to use them where you're going to use them, and you can crop and resize and do all that other stuff. But for slideshows, it's just it'll put them on screen and then blacken the edges for the parts that don't fit. So, okay, all right. Oh my God, here's another eye chart. Chapter 3, evolving menus. Different style of menus in the library were not showing up. Couldn't even switch from general. Oh, so this is the again, this is the Encore content zip file that I had you guys download. And at the time, before I put the file together to say, go ahead and download it, I was answering this question. I said, oh, and by the way, the zip file is located on the server. So you can, this Encore content _en for English -us.zip is a almost 3 gig file of different DVD and Blu-ray sized menus that you can, and graphical elements, whether there's buttons or other things that you can then make use of in your project. Your systems here might already have it, but I don't think so. But I'll show you how to connect to it so that if you're on your own computers in your own time, you'll be able to see where to, how to plug it in, how to plug it to the library. So we'll get to that. What is the maximum project size that After Effects can render, and how much memory disk cache can After Effects utilize? You guys know what the answer is to this. The rabbit hole. And I put a hyphen on, or I put an asterisk on it because it is subject to memory or hard disk storage. So, there's no maximum project size, because what the thing about it is that After Effects will take whatever time it needs to render what you've given it. So it's not a real-time rendering thing. After Effects laughs at real time. It says, ha, real time. That's for whips. So it will take whatever time it needs to render everything that you need to get from it. So if your project has 1 million layers, hundreds of pre-comps, all sorts of effects, dozens of plugins, After Effects goes, okay, it's going to take me a while. And that's pretty much it. It's just going to be hella slow for you. So the more horsepower, whether it's CPU, GPU, memory, and hard disk that you can throw at the problem, the faster you can get the more complicated things done in After Effects. That's pretty much it. Because what happens is I tried this once, foolishly. I tried creating as many layers in an After Effects project as I could. And I gave up. Part of it was that After Effects started slowing way down, the more layers I put in, I got to thousands of layers. But I mean, it was just like, if there's nothing on the layers, you can create, I don't even know, knock yourself out. But if you have content on layers, the more you add, obviously you're just building the memory footprint of your composition, and After Effects will just go slower. It still functions, but it just goes really slow. It just renders everything slowly. So rabbit hole has no bottom. Enjoy yourself. Send a postcard. Okay. This was the best one. Will DVDs soon be null and void? So I decided to answer this one a bit more creatively. The short answer is, can you buy them at Walmart? And the answer is, you can. So are they null and void? Nope. As long as there is a market for selling them, and as so long as there are people buying disc players, you can still go and buy a Blu-ray player that will play DVDs and Blu-rays. So, and you can still buy DVDs. You can still buy DVDs of lots of things. Good God, you still buy DVDs of things. Blah! It's like the VHS of disc video. I mean, it's like, there you have it. It's people are still buying this stuff. And, it's not like what I think you'll appreciate after this class when you go to look at DVDs that have been professionally prepared, is you're going to see all the tricks. You're going to see it and you'll be like, oh, I know how they did that. And that's a good thing. But understand that new stuff, so maybe Mike Starkey's right, and he's going to love to hear that on this lecture. Is maybe you guys should be instructed on how to use Encore CS6 forever, and it will be the crucible into which that you all pass through in order to graduate from the digital media program. I don't know, but what I do know is that as long as there's a market for this stuff and people still buy the players that play them, the format's not gonna go away. So but what I do know is that the pool of talent needed to create new discs is shrinking. So it's not something where it's not a hotbed of opportunity for students. Okay. And the blank slide means the fun is over there. All right. So 7:33 went faster today with fewer questions. Go figure. Anybody got anything from me before we get started? No? What's that?
How are you doing?
How am I doing? It's okay. It's been a long week. It's only Tuesday. It's been a long week.
I had a question
Yeah.
related more to After Effects. Could you speak to lumetri color correction versus the other one?
So the interesting thing about the latest version of After Effects, the one that just came out, is that they've added lumetri scopes to After Effects now. So the same color engine that we went through in Premiere is now available to you in After Effects. Whether that actually means that they're putting the lumetri color control into After Effects, I'm not as sure, because I haven't installed it, because I'm running a class based on an older version of After Effects now. Next time I teach the class, I'll probably have that version loaded on this.
But then there was also color finesse. Like, what's the?
So color finesse in After Effects is definitely a high-powered color correction tool for After Effects to use. It is. I mean, it has some advantages over lumetri, so I'll give you that. It doesn't have a lot of advantages, but it does have some. The way that you can do what they call secondary color correction. If I guys told you the difference between primary and secondary color correction? Somebody's nodding their head. What is it? What's the difference between primary and secondary? Primary and secondary color correction. No? Oh, okay. Well, then I'll tell you again. That's fine. No problem. Everybody learn. Oh, yeah. Somebody on the chat says you can still buy CDs too. Stuff. No, you can't buy floppy disks are hard to come by. That's true too. So primary color correction is the color correction that you guys think of when you think of color correction. Okay? When you guys think of color correction, where you're like, oh, I'm going to adjust contrast. I'm going to mess with curves. I'm going to do, I'm going to do a color shift, or I'm going to change the color temperature. That's primary color correction. All right? So secondary color correction is where you want to affect a certain region on the screen, a certain amount or a certain color range that's appearing on the screen. So whether that is flesh tones, or you want to take your highlights and do something with them, or you want to take your shadows and do something with them, or you want to take your blues, your greens, your yellows, or whatever. So you can choose by color, by brightness, by saturation, any of those three, hue, lightness, saturation. You can choose any of those three to create a color selection criteria that you can then use to say, okay, for those pixels, I want to do a color correction. So for those pixels only, I want to do a different color correction. So it's kind of like, it's almost like masking off a part of the screen, but it's based on color. And then you apply a color correction just to those pixels that you've selected. That is secondary color correction. Okay? So Color Finesse does a very good way of isolating doing secondary color correction that I think is better than what Lumetri color control does. That said, Lumetri has some different ways to approach that. They do have a secondary color correction that you can use. It's just not quite as easy to manipulate. Okay, does that help? Okay, that's another good question. Sure, it's valid. All right. So let's see. What do we got? Week 16. The hidden truths. Feels like the encore of the encore. Yeah, I know. The sequel to the encore. There we go. That's what it is. It's the sequel. Means it's not as good as the original. Right, guys? Okay. Always. So what we're going to talk about this week is how projects are stored, encore projects are stored, because there's some things about them that you need to know in order to successfully turn them in, so that I don't ding you for not turning them in correctly. And the mouse is moving on the screen. How nice. We're also going to talk about the Photoshop Encore connection, because there is one. We hinted at it last week. We'll talk about it this week. We're going to talk about menus and flow, what that means in terms of navigating through a menu using just buttons instead of your mouse. Stitching things together, making sure that everything's put together, checking a build, building a disk, burning the disk, because I did actually look up what it took to burn an ISO image to a blank DVD in Windows, and it's just as easy as you doing it in a Mac. I mean, it's ridiculously easy. So none of you are required to burn an image to an actual plastic writable DVD. Okay, that's not a requirement of the class. But you do need to provide an image that I can load and play on my computer as a DVD. So that's why this last bullet is where you test what you burn. So you're going to create something, you're going to burn it to it, or you're going to build that image, that ISO image file, and then you need to test it, make sure it does what you say, what you want it to do. And as long as you do all of those things, what you turn in 2 weeks is going to be just fine, because you'll have tested it. Okay, so let's get on with it. So first order of business is, if you don't already have this, so this is a project you guys don't have because I'm not going to distribute somebody else's content widely. But what I wanted to talk about first is the fact that you should have on your desktop, you should have a zip file like this that you downloaded off the file server, or downloaded from Adobe. If you just actually look for Encore extra content, I think is what the hell? Let's just search for it. So here, go to Google and you type Encore CS6 additional content. See, look, I didn't even have to type the whole damn thing in. I love the autofill. So, and the very first thing is download full library content for Adobe Encore CS6. You click on it, and it will take you to Adobe's site where you can download it. This is the file. So that English, if you look at the bottom, that's exactly the file name that we've got on the file server. You can download it from Adobe right now. For all those of you online, get on with it and download this stuff because it's worth having if you don't already have it installed to use. So if you double click this thing and it's gonna open up on your desktop, which of course I didn't think to do in advance, so we have to sit and watch it expand and expand and expand. Love watching the little bar grow. It's like watching, it's like my little child. Okay, so anyway, now we've got this folder named ENUS, whatever. We want to point Encore at that thing. So the way to do that, and notice for me, I already have the libraries already set up. If you look under, if you have Encore started, which you should go ahead and start. And if you don't have a project to load, you can actually just do a new project. So what the hell, we'll just do a new project. Don't save it. Yeah, I'll save it to the desktop for now. So if you load this and it's looking just like this and you don't see anything in this library set right here, or if you have it set to another, another setting here, you might have it set to one of these other sets. If you're not seeing anything showing up down here, then you need to install that library. So the way you do it is you'll go to Encore on the Mac. You'll do it under the Encore menu. For you guys on Windows, it's, I believe, under the Edit menu, but it's going to be, or File, Preferences, and then I think it's Media, isn't it? Yeah, Library Content. So under the Media tab, you've got library content, and you normally it's going to be under the applications folder that you installed Encore with. But if it isn't, you can always navigate to another folder. So we can go right here to where it says library, or even just to, yeah, we'll do the library and click choose. And OK, and it's going to basically start loading that library into Encore's, configuration. So you've got, and it doesn't matter where you've loaded it. It can be loaded anywhere on your computer, and you can point Encore at that library, and then it will slurp it in and start using it. OK, so now you'll see that you've got under library. Actually, we've got even more now than we did before. So clearly, I've added more things that were already in place. See the mic? I'm showing them Encore.
Excellent.
All right.
What are you doing it Encore?
As little as possible. All right, I'll talk. So we're doing all of the advanced stuff tonight. This is crazy. And obviously, as it's as the library is enormous, you see that there's plenty of different weird content that you can use for all kinds of garbage. I mean, there's literally, you have under each of these, you have these filters. So these will basically enable or disable different classes of content in the library. So if you wanted to turn off everything or just show the menus, just show buttons, they'll show you all the buttons. Still, just general clip art that you can add in, and so on. So anyway, you've got a, once you have that loaded, then you can start to add things. So say, for instance, we wanted to do a wide menu. Let's see if we can get something in here that's a little more interesting. So most of these you're going to find are going to be, they're going to be HD, high def, or standard def. And standard def in this case is going to be 4:3. I don't particularly care which you use. Some of these will be like, they'll show you, some options will be, they'll say wide instead of SD. So this one's going to be a radiant. This particular theme is a standard definition, but it's 16:9 aspect as opposed to 4:3. So that's why it says wide here. Whereas this is a 4:3 aspect ratio, and this is obviously not. So you can use any of these that you want to as a start point. Now, if you want to, I'm trying to think where I want to take you guys here. Where do we want to go? Let's some of these actually have motion backgrounds too, which is kind of fun. So let's actually pull one of these in. I know it's going to be, well, hello. I just crashed Encore. How cool is that? That's my kind of application right there. Everybody tell Mike how much I love this program. All right. We're doing it again. Yes, it can't be undone. I get it. I got to go back to this. So, all right. Well, we'll start a little less crazy. For a blank project, you can bring in this blank menu wide, and it will basically open up what amounts to an empty menu for you. The nice thing about it is that you can do whatever you want with it. It's just a blank canvas, and it's kind of the default menu that you get when you want to add a menu to a project and you don't have something better to do with it. Almost all of these other menus are built off of this template right here. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not sending you anything today. When you guys, now the next thing you want to do on a menu is you need to have some amount of buttons. So let's pull up the buttons, and you can add. So this should all be review stuff to you guys. But what I want to show you is the fact that as you work through this, you're going to want to see. You can choose what to put in here. So, okay, flower buttons, what the hell? We're going to put a flower button in here. Okay, so now you got a flower button, and maybe you have another flower button, and maybe a third flower button. Okay, so now you got 3 of these dastardly things. But you notice that they've been dropped onto a menu. So what is this? These are items out of a library, but you're dropping them onto a menu. And what that basically boils down to is that you're creating these layers on the menu. So if you click on the layers tab here, you'll see that you've got the menu name right here, and then there's going to be all of these menus. They all say menu 1. So maybe you should change one, say something other than menu 1. So we can say settings. Ooh, that's beautiful. All right. So, and now the name of it follows that. This one we'll call chapters. And then the last one we will call play. All right. So now you've got these three buttons on a black background. So, you know, what you've created is you've added buttons to a black menu, but you know, in so doing, you've actually created layers in a menu now, and then there's a background. So when you work in these, what you start to do is you can actually understand that this menu can actually be edited outside of this. So if you go to menu, you can actually where is it? Come on, Randy. Oh, save menu as file. So is that the only way to do this? I thought we could pull it. Oh, it might be because we have to have we need to have Photoshop CS6 for it to work. Nope, here it is. There it is under edit. So if you go to this, you can actually select the menu, go to the edit menu. You can edit the menu in Photoshop. If you do select that, what's going to happen is it's going to load Photoshop for you.
Sorry, how did you have the text? Sorry.
No problem. I'll go back and do it. So when you go to, when you bring the buttons in, they don't have any text on them, right? So I just come over to the layer and double click on it and change the layer name. The layer name actually ends up being the text that shows up here. So you can say, hi. Okay, so the layer that you have is actually, so the layer name will be the name of the button and what gets displayed on screen. Okay. So now, but now we've got, Encore has this menu here, and all of a sudden you now open it in Photoshop and you have the same thing. So now you understand that you have all of these different button or these different layer groups in Photoshop. You have a background. If for some reason you wanted to do something different with the background, you can click on this and now it's a blank background and you can do something different. So we'll drop a, come on, give me something. Nope, you're gonna all leave me hanging. All right, I'm gonna remember this. So, all right, well, here we go. It's gonna be add noise because what the hell? That's gonna be fun. And we'll make it really noisy. No, okay, maybe not that noisy. Okay, maybe not that noisy either. We'll Gaussian distribute it, make it monochromatic. That'll be fun. And then we'll blur it so that it's kind of a goofy sort of thing. So we'll do a Gaussian blur. About 3 pixels. Yeah, okay, great. So now I got this kind of rumply gray background, and of course the lights are on, so you can't see very well. I'll go ahead and turn off the lights. Okay, so you got this rumply big black, or this gray background. It's rumply. So say, for instance, also that you wanted to do some changes in here. You can always move layers around. Whoops. Well, I wouldn't group them that way. I would make sure that they're not, don't want to drop them into each other. That can cause kind of problems. But what you'll notice is that when you open up these groups inside of Photoshop, you're actually, oh, all right, I'll leave you up for now. So you actually have lots of different, you have these different pieces. So you have a flower, the center, which is actually a highlight, or no, actually the highlight is this. So you have, 2 layers that are static. These are always on. So there's the flower and there's the center. And then you have the text, right? Which is automatically created when you change the layer in Encore. If you change the layer now, it's not going to update. So you can change this to high and notice that the text still says play. So that convenience inside of Encore is just that. If you open this into Photoshop, though, you can now do significantly more interesting stuff, including you can work. You actually have a lot more control over how things develop on each of these. Each of these sub elements. So if you wanted to alter the color of any of these elements, change their shape, so let's screw around with them a little bit. So we can do a, come on. You're telling me I can't do that? Oh, I see how you are. All right, fine. What FX do we have on this thing right now? Oh, I see, it's a bevel, that's why. So it's already beveled, but you can add things like an outer glow or a drop shadow or any of these other, foolish, the layer styles that you can play with inside of Photoshop. You can change the blend mode of this, which might be a little bit weird once it gets brought back in, but well, let's see if it does anything. Screen. No, that's kind of interesting. Color dodge. There we go. That could be funky. All right. So you can do that for all of these as well. So you come back down here, double click on it, color dodge, okay, and ditto. So that's the change we'll make here, so that you can kind of tell that we made this this change to the layer. Okay, so now you've got these weird flowers. I hope that actually plays through. We'll see. If you want to change the text, you can. So you can always say, instead of play, it could be play movie. Oh, that's right, because you got to do it the hard way. We got to go movie. Well, that's fun too. Oh, it's because I don't have the, oh man, boy, this is like all kinds of fun here. So the font is actually not rendering in this one. Super cool. Bold, 48 points, sharp. It should be working. Why aren't you working? Tell me why you're not working. You're not working because you're not. Okay, well, let's see what happens when we take it back. So when you save this, this PSD, because that's actually what the menu file is saved as, you should be able to go back over here, and it's going to say, oh, your file changed in edit in Photoshop. Do you want to overwrite your changes with that file? You say yes, and then of course now you've butchered your play. So let's see, is it going to work? Okay, so it comes back. Apparently you are stuck with that one. That's fun. You can change the text. I knew that you could change the text in Premiere, or you can change it in Photoshop, but then it breaks this linkage that you have here. So your mileage may vary. But notice that the new flower, the blending mode for the flower kind of stuck. So that's cool. The highlight is available to display. You notice that it's going to show up as an orange dot where the center of the flower is. So we can actually turn that on. Where do we turn that on? That's how. So you can actually set it so that it is, this particular one is highlighted by selecting this little bar right here. So there's the padlock obviously limits the ability to change the menu item, and if you want to preview the selection of that, that's how you would know that it's selected. The other way you know is by previewing the menu, and you'll see that whatever your menu item that is selected is going to be highlighted. Okay. So that's how it's they're all related to each other. So that's, you have this this connection. There's this, and the other thing to take away from this is that in Photoshop you'll notice that there's these parentheses with certain values or things inside of it, and you'll want to be careful not to mess with these, including you don't want to strip them out, because by doing so you're basically removing the information that Encore uses to actually create the menu. So if you remove this, so just so that you see what happens, we're going to save this. And it's going to come back. Oh, that's right. I got to go back and edit it again. Let's see how this is. So we'll go back into the menu, edit menu in Photoshop, brings it back. We will come to play movie, and we'll delete that, hit save, and then go back to Encore, and it should, well, okay. It's not working. Somebody help me. Oh, this is it. That's why. I'll close that one. This one will be low. Save. No, I don't want to save that. All right, forget it. The idea is that if you remove these things, you actually create, they actually just become regular layers, and they don't function as buttons correctly. And so you'll notice that that when you select it, it's no longer green, it's blue. So it thinks of these as buttons, and it thinks of this as just a layer. It's not even selectable as a button right now. So it just kind of ends up as background material. So when you create this, you want to be careful not to, if you go in to edit these menus in Photoshop, you can be careful just to maintain that information, because otherwise it's going to cause problems. Now, if you wanted to create a menu from scratch in Photoshop, you just need to be careful to add these particular pieces of information. So you want to add these notations for the plus being for a button, the equals 1 being a highlight indicator, and then you're going to have a text, at least a text placeholder, and maybe some kind of graphic element to kind of isolate or to display on screen as a button. So once we save this off, don't save that. We'll go back here, and now you'll see that it's back to being a button like all the other things. So it's happy again. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about flow. So how menus work. So notice that when you preview a menu, you'll see that when you move the arrows a certain way, the behavior changes. So if I click down, you know what happens is the selection moves to the next one, and then if you click down when you're at the bottom, it kind of rolls to the top. That behavior is actually automatically kind of baked into Encore. So when you look at this, you actually have what's called button routing. So there's this little button right here on the bottom of the viewport. If you click on it, you'll see that you get this weird joystick action for each of your buttons that are on screen. So most of these are automatically determined for you by Encore, and you can actually can decide to change that. And of course, it's like every year I got to go back and relearn this crap. What do I do in this? Okay, so nope. It's not one of these. No, of course not. All right. Because what you're seeing is when you look at these individually, you'll see that they're actually numbered. So they each have a number on them, and there's all these different kind of arrows that go off in different directions, and those correspond to the menu buttons that you see here on this. So the up, down, left, and right buttons that are on the menu itself. All right, so pretty sure it is a setting inside. Oh, here it is right here. So under menu. So in order to change this, if you want the default is kind of what it is. Encore will route these automatically for you if you don't tell it you want to do it yourself. And the checkbox to do that is actually on the menu under this set, under these default button blah blahs. It's going to say automatically route buttons. And if you clear that checkbox, now all of a sudden you can actually change. So now notice that before, when you go to the menu and they're routing, you'll see that it's a red, it's the kind of the anti sign saying no action to perform here. As soon as you clear that, now it's a hand. So you're like, oh, excellent, I can do things. So and this is going to look a little bit familiar, is that this behaves kind of like a pick whip that you've seen in After Effects. So you'll grab this and you'll see a little line that comes off of it, and you can choose where this goes from this direction. If you want it to go to itself, you would drag it onto itself, and that's why it shows that when you do left and right on play movie, it's just going to stay on that point. Maybe you want, if you arrow to the right, you want it to go down one. So now if you hit the down arrow or the right arrow, it's going to go to the next button. Ditto this one. And then if you do that one, you want this to go to the top. And then if you want to do the other way, you'll say that if you go left, you want to go down here. If you go left, you want to go up. And if you go left, you want to go up. And now your behaviors are a bit different than what they were by default. Okay. So now when you preview this, you'll see that if I use the right arrow, it moves down the sequence and then wraps around, just like you would expect if I use the down arrow, or if I use the up arrow, or if I use the left arrow. They behave kind of the way you want the menu to behave. The other part of this that makes for interesting times is that there are ways, and this is how, you know, shenanigans start to happen. You have the power to really mess with the user experience here. So use this authority wisely is my you know, sage advice to you. If you want, so and this is where you can start to do nonsensical things, like if you're on play movie and you hit the down arrow, I want you to go to settings. And if you do the up arrow from settings, I want you to go to play movie. But if you go to the right, I want you to go to chapters. And if you go to left, I want you to go to play movie. So now on this one, you've got only one option that takes you one place and 3 options that take you somewhere else. And so you can start to do these kinds of weird user behaviors that are counterintuitive and lead to rage, fits of rage, actually. So understand that you have a real, you have a responsibility to your users to not make it impossible to do anything. So if you make it so that people have to use the buttons in a certain manner in order to get something done, that can, especially when it's visible elements on screen, that's where things can get really kind of messy for you. The other part of this that's kind of interesting is that you can do other things that are equally weird, such as you can, let's put a button on here. See if I can find something that makes a little bit of sense here. Probably not, but ew, that's ugly. Ooh, whoa, yeah. Okay. Maybe that's a hopeless task. What we'll do is we'll grab a basic button. It might even be back to the flower button. So we'll do the flower button again. And I can't add it. Oh, here we go. No, I can't add it to the menu. Why can't I add you to the menu? You're making me sad. It may be actually because we edited this in Premiere, it's not gonna, or in Photoshop, it's not gonna let me do this. So tell you what we'll do. We will edit this. We'll edit this in Premiere, and we will create a blank button. So select a menu, go to Photoshop. I hope you guys are following along with this. This is great fun. So in here, what we can do is we can actually duplicate the group, and we're going to call this invisible. Okay. And we're going to move it somewhere, and we're also going to get rid of everything. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to save it and go back to Encore. Now, look what we got. We now have a button that doesn't have anything. It's invisible for all intents and purposes. And it can be routed to. How's that like your boat? All right, so this is where the concept of DVD Easter eggs was hatched, is that DVD authors figured out that you can make these things basically invisible. You can make them also, they're invisible on screen until you select them. And how you select them can actually be something of a process in and of itself. So to conclude, at least to get us to where we can take a break, you can start to have a sequence of actions that lets you arrive at a destination that if you do anything other than what you need to, you can't get to it. So what we do is we say, for instance, we will pull these and we're going to route everything to itself That's going to be kind of mad. That's going to be rage inducing, right? Okay, so we're going to route everything to its own button, which is just about the most infuriating user experience you can ask for. Okay, so this one does everything except the right goes to the next button. This one, everything ends up here, and then the right goes to the next button. This one does everything, and then the right goes to an invisible button. And if you do anything other than select it, you end up going here, back to the beginning. So let's preview what that looks like. Okay, so I start pressing buttons, and nothing's working until I press this button, and then it moves to the next link in the chain. And I can't do anything, and I can't do anything. And then I go to the next link in the chain, and then I can't do anything. I can't do anything. And then I click the next link in the chain, and now I've got this invisible button is highlighted. Now I can click that, or I can press select, and that button will do something. Currently, the button doesn't do anything because we haven't plugged it into, we haven't connected it to anything because there's no other content in the disk right now. But you could have that launch a timeline. You could have that launch another menu. You could have that launch a slideshow. You could have it play a special "Oh, you found me" video that directors like to stick into these things. So this is how you do Easter eggs in DVDs in 15 minutes or less. I mean, it's like so you basically create these buttons that are functionally invisible, except for maybe a highlight. The highlight, though, is optional. You could turn that off. You could make that color invisible as well, and then people are like, now what? But you got to understand that there's a real risk here in terms of what are you inflicting on your users, okay? So please don't do this on your DVDs that you turn in, TV. If I find out that you did this, I'm gonna be pissed. So don't mess with me. So anyway, yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's just, and again, this is how DVD authors have been doing these kinds of things for a while. The other part of this that I didn't get into is that you can always you can't duplicate. Okay, you can. We can duplicate this menu, right? So now we have a second menu of this. Okay. Where and again, you can start to really make trouble for people. And I don't know why I show you guys this, but whatever. So where you can say, okay, so if they get to this Easter egg, what I want the link to be is to go to this other menu. I want it to go to that menu. Okay. So now this button will start this other menu. So we'll call this menu. Whoops. Hello. Oh, that's right. I got to go over here and do this. God, man, Encore drives me crazy. So we'll call this messed up menu 2. All right. So now, and this one's going to be messed up menu 1. Okay. So now you've got an invisible button that is set to, well, actually here, this invisible button is set to messed up menu 2. So now this actually loads another menu that looks exactly the same as the previous one. And so you can now, once again, do another thing where you'll basically route the left buttons to do things and everything else to be itself. Okay, so again, don't do this, but I'm showing you this because I'm kind of a closet anarchist. Okay, and then this one is there and here and there and there. Okay, and then this one again does the same thing, and maybe we'll put a different menu in so that we know that we hit the yeah, we'll put a new menu in so that we know that we hit the end point. Okay, so now you've got this one is set to Blue Notes introduction, and there you go. So now when you guys run through this, oh my God. So you start with the play movie button, you got to go right. Hello. You go, oh, see, it already put me in the wrong menu. Damn it. Oof, this is killing me. So that's not set. That's not set. That's not set. That's set to mess 2. Okay, good. And then messed up 2, not set, not set, not set, messed up 2. Oh, messed up. Oh, no, see, there we go. Messed up 2 will take you to the blue notes, and we're good. Oh, this one says invisible. How much fun is that? Let's not keep that one there. Let's. We need it to match, damn it. All right. Okay, so we're gonna do play movie. Chapters. Visible and settings. Okay, good. So now we've got these all where we want them. We confirm that our routing is where we want it to be. Yeah, of course, this now it's all screwy again because in this menu, yeah, okay, so 333. No, I don't want that to happen there. So we're going to go here. Nope. I got to reroute this all over again. You're kidding me. Okay, the life of a closet anarchist is difficult sometimes. All right, so, and I swear to God, we'll get to a break here. We will. Okay, and boom, boom, boom. All right, and then these are all going to go back to play movie if you don't behave yourself. All right. Whew. All right, we'll just leave the Blue Notes menu alone. So here we are. We're in the project preview. So here's the first menu where we should be able to go right. Nope, it's going left, left, and left. Why are you doing this to me? Oh, but see, that did work correctly. I must have done that twice. I did do it twice. All right, that's fine. So, all right. I swear to you, I want to do this right, but I'm not going to do it right. All right, so the idea is that the first time you do this, you'll hit left, 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 enter, and you end up at the same menu you were at before. And actually, because it's the default, it actually drops you right here at this one. And so it actually shortcuts the menu. So the idea is that you can create sequences. And all of this is evidenced in the flow chart. So you'll see this. So if we bring up the flow chart and we zoom the whole window, you'll see that you have the disk will launch a menu. That menu links to a separate menu that's identical. And then once you go through the routing, you end up at a third menu that actually has something you can do. This is how you can create all kinds of trouble for yourself, for others, but it's also how you hide. It's also how you hide things inside of DVDs and Blu-ray menus, such that people will have to do certain combinations of things in order to accomplish stuff. So anyway, that's that. We'll take a break right at this point so that we've got a moment for you to absorb everything. And when we get back, we will resume the death march for our, let's see. Oh yeah, we got things to do still, like building and checking and burning and all of that. So stick around and turn on the lights. It's the most useful class, right? It's the class you always dreamed of having.
Just a lot of time.
Very similar, but I did, yeah, I did something, but I was trying to track it. So, yeah, my interests similar, but they're just different. My, there's that graphic, brings up, which is mine's different. Yeah, I just created a new thing to go there. And then so it's just like so I think I have audio. We were wanting to take a section of it to work on. I mean, so did you put different tracks on there? Yeah, because you kind of opened it, I thought I was back close to that club. And I was like, wait a minute. So remind me how you went here to audition. I think on the original version of this to audition. So just export. I didn't know what to do. So I was like, no, I did this. Okay, so here's the original price. Yes, once you're in there, it sets the two tracks, and you just go. So it's actually really simple. Yeah. So what do I actually use? Do you want to? So what it did was it brought the stems down here. And then I just. But anyway. So like, what would you do? And then you have to be careful. So that's why. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, there's stems. So it's like going into general interest and do it and then listen, say, okay, there's some issues with this, and this, and that needs repair. So that one's clips, copy of it.
Yes.
I was on the canvas and I noticed you didn't have my homework for week 12 and 13.
I haven't graded them yet.
Oh, okay.
So yes, but you want me to check and see if I got them?
Sure.
All right. So give me a sec here. Come on, don't leave me hanging. Here we go. Why does it do that? So, yep, there's 13. The fact that they're red means I haven't graded them yet. That's all.
Okay.
So, yep, I got. Oh, you're good.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay. Did y'all have a great break? Dreaming up crazy ways to mess with your users. Yeah, I mean, this is honestly the thing to really take away from this is being careful about how you build or how you build a menu structure in Encore can be you have plenty of flexibility. If you just stick to the default ways that Encore routes your menus, you'll probably never have a problem with usability. It won't be complicated, but it also won't be random because as you could tell, it's like I even got to the point where I was like, wait, which way's up? And so it's pretty common to run into that. If you start to do this thing where you're stacking menus, in this manner where you need to kind of do a certain sequence of keystrokes in order to reach a destination, that is certainly a messed up thing to do to a user. So, and the other thing is that when you look at a menu and it's going to say what the default button is, notice that the numbering here is 1 through 4, and it's going to show you the buttons that you have. If you want to play movie to be the first one, then you'd set your default button to 3, and then when you go to preview, well, okay, that didn't work. And we do the default button is 4 on this one. And then it should be, yeah, okay. So now when you load the menu, now the first menu item is highlighted. And again, I'm hitting up, down, left, right, or up and down and left, and they don't go anywhere. I have to click right, and then right, and then right to get to the hidden button. Click OK. It flashes the menu. Now I have to click left, 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 and then button, and then I get a whole different menu entirely. So just be careful about how you do this stuff. If you wanted to, you could also, I believe, when you go to, and I don't know, again, this is not what I normally think of, but if you wanted to have a button that you had to navigate to, and then if you clicked it, it selected something like that button, you could do the same thing where by doing the link. So you select the button that you want, you click, you can use the pick whip, and no, you should be able to go there though. Come on. Oh no, that's right. So it does say that it will messed up menu 1, invisible. Let's see if that works. So if I click this, yeah, it selects that menu button, and we're still on messed up menu 1. So, and then as soon as we do that, now we're elsewhere. So yeah, it's kind of a messed up thing. All right, I'm done talking about that one now. So now I'm going to go back to looking at this this other project. So I'm going to close this cursed project down. And I'm going to find on my fine little hard drive, final project example. So, and this one takes a little bit of time to load, but not too bad. So this is actually, let me turn off the lights again. Okay. So this is actually the menus or basically a project that a student gave me last year. And it's generally speaking pretty well put together for a student project that has a lot of stuff on here. Notice that he actually did, I think he did do a slideshow. Let me see, did he put a slideshow? No, he didn't. So he has a series of images though. I don't know what they do. I honestly, I'm like, wait a second, what does he do here? So these are just actually clips that are just showing. So I don't know what he's got. He might have used these as backgrounders or some other thing. Actually, that's what he did, is that these were all images that he added for explanation. So the way that this is put together is kind of cute. So I'm gonna bring up the flow chart so that you can kind of see what he did, so that you can kind of get a sense of this. So he had his first play is to do an intro video, which then leads to the main menu, which has 2 options: play movie or chapters. Oh, but then he hid one. See, he hid a button. That's why. All right, well, let's go see what he's got there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click generate on this, and so let's see how long it takes. 30 seconds, that's fine. Part of this is that it's going to, I believe it's going to activate the video background and the menu buttons themselves, I believe. Oh, it doesn't activate these. Oh, I think I must have marked him down for that one. Oh, shame. All right, so let's take a look at. He's got a hidden button on here somewhere. Yeah, with project notes. Oh, it's up there, isn't it? Oh, see, that's too easy. Darn it! I didn't want it to be that easy. Oh, media offline. That's always nice. Is that it? That's all you got for me? All right, fine. So yeah, he basically had a project notes slideshow that he added. I never bothered to read it. How do you like them apples? So the idea of but the idea here is that his menu didn't have animate buttons turned on. If he had, that would have definitely been animated, unless it's just a still image. It could be a still image. Let's see if it's so play movie, link to the clip. Yeah, it's all good. It's in there. It's not. All right. The other part of this is the highlight that's on here. If I wanted to see what the highlight looked like. Yeah, so you've got show the normal sub picture. So these are the idea of the highlighting on these is to show you when you hover over it with the mouse or with when you select it with your remote, how to know that it's selected. And in this case, he chose the red underline as his highlight. And then if you click on it, that's what this third one is, show activated subpicture highlight, which you can change the color of the highlight if you click on it so that people know that, oh, I selected that. And so then let me get back to this where he's got, yeah, so project notes right here is the slideshow. Slideshows in Encore are obviously a set of still images. They do have transitions that you can create between one and the next. But what ends up happening is that this ends up being rendered to video once it's done. So again, these images, I didn't look at what these images are. So this image, okay, so here you go. So the question from this from tonight, this image is actually a 960 by 540 still image, but he's rendering it into an NTSC video sequence. So the slideshow is 720 by 480, and so when he drops it in, notice that it's letterboxing the top and bottom so that the aspect ratio fits the screen. So that's something. I mean, it's and it also has a 30-second audio file that plays with it. Says the default transition is cross dissolve, and each slide is 4 seconds and some change to do that. So, all right, flowchart. So when you get to this part, it's gonna either play or it's gonna go to the chapter menu is the sub menu. How fun is that? So when you go to the chapter menu, it actually opens up the sub menu. The sub menu has the individual tiles for all of the chapters. This is the menu that we should go check on to see if it has animations turned on. So we'll go to sub menu and make sure that, oh, see, this one also does not have animate buttons turned on. So now when you go in here and you play this menu, And we can do that. We can fast forward through that by clicking on this little button here. It says execute end action, meaning that whatever you're in, it's going to basically hop to the end of that and immediately go to the next thing. So if we want to activate the chapters menu and then click on this, that's an interesting highlight. I wouldn't call that a win. So this is going to take a little bit longer. But the background is a video clip, and these are all video clips as well. And so, or the buttons actually reference chapter poster cards in the timeline, and so those are the thumbnails that you're seeing are those chapter marker, representative images. And then once the rendering's done, it's going to basically play. These videos will play under each of these thumbnails, and the background will play separately in 26 seconds. Or less. You see how okay, so now you've got videos playing in the background. For each of those video buttons, you've got cows lovingly grazing in tall grass, and the whatever this music is playing over the back of it. And at the end of it, it just loops. Okay? So the important things to kind of take from this is not how the highlighting works, because that's a lose right there. This is not what I would call a fantastic job of highlighting by Xing out individual pieces. But you get the idea of what this chapter menu should kind of provide in terms of the look. All right, and now I'm officially done with that music. So, what else do I want to show you guys? Let's see what I've got on here. Oh, so when you've got this project to a certain point, right? You've got it basically to where everything is plugged together. You've checked all of your buttons. Your buttons all have links to different chapters in a timeline, or everything's put together in the flowchart so that nothing's hanging loose. Now, once you've got that, you need to basically prepare to kind of get your project going. And so you should be able to bring up the build window. And usually you'll find it under here in this top part. You absolutely don't want the format to be Flash. You want the format to be DVD. And the output should be a DVD image. Okay? So the first things to get out of this is your format, not Blu-ray, not Flash, but DVD. And then the output needs to be a DVD image, which is going to be a file that's going to sit on your hard disk. You're going to create using the current project. You're going to set a destination. It's going to tell you, let's zoom this. Okay, it's going to tell you that out of this project, we're going to use 435 megabytes of space to build this disk image. Okay, we will also, we'll get to this in just a second. So your name on this, it'd be nice if it had a name other than Semester Project DVD. I'd like to see your last name. What the hell? We can put up, is it 5223 is the section, or 5371? I can't remember what it is. 5. All right, well, whatever. It's you can put up some kind of code there, or you can put Hall Spring 2017. That works too. Okay, it's just so that I can set this into my mind as like, this is a project from 2017. And it looks just fine. All right, so we'll go with that. Hall Spring 2017. The size is fine because most of the DVD writable DVDs are going to be 4.7 gigs. If you did a dual layer, that would be a goofy thing to do these days. It's one-sided, and there's no layer break because it's not dual layer. If it was dual layer, there'd be a point where you can actually choose to basically do that split on the between one layer and the other. But again, it's not worth going into because most people never encounter it. When you go to region codes, you should always enable all regions for the content that you're going to give me. Please, for the love of all that is good, don't choose a region that is like this or something like that, or worse, international, China, or I guess it's China and 6 are the same. So these are both inexorably tied to one another. But because basically by doing this, you limit the players that this disk will play in, and it causes all kinds of problems. So for this class, and honestly for just about anything that you're going to reasonably do, if you're going to ever author a DVD, you're not going to set a region code. So please don't. You can also do copy protection on here. You can, and of course you can actually apply CSS, but as anybody in the room probably understands, CSS is a joke. It's not actually encryption that works, because the DCSS code was shared to the internet, and then all sorts of tools were made that cracks that encryption like that. And so, the use of copy protection on your projects is, of course, your prerogative. Generally speaking, again, for client work and for student work, for sure, I would not enforce any copy protection on a project, mostly because they're probably going to want to copy it pretty widely. If they don't, they're going to tell you so. So don't assume that you want it copy protection turned on or region codes turned on unless they explicitly ask for it. Good God, please. Okay, so once you've defined all of your outputs, the next thing to do is build it, right? And you're like, why is this grayed out? Part of it is that you actually have to do, at least one time, you have to do a check of your project, which basically is just going to be like a sanity, a smoke test that the software will do to ensure that you have done all due diligence in terms of stitching together your project. So if you click on start, you should have no items found. Now, what would that look like if you did? You would have you might have a menu where, well, let me zoom back out here. So maybe you'd have a menu where something was disconnected. So let's go to the main menu and we'll disconnect this. All right. So instead of going there, it's just delete. All right. So now when you go to check the build, you'll see that it's going to say link is not set. So, if you run into any problems on this list, you should take care of it before you move forward doing anything. Actually, I know the reason why this is grayed out is because we haven't given it a location to save to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it to my favorite place in all of creation, the desktop. And notice that it does show you a file format. It's a DVD image file. What's going to be written is called an ISO file. You can tell because at the end of it, it's going to have .iso on the name, and it's actually using the name of the disk. My disk name right here is the name of the file. So that's not a bad idea to have your, you name it, something sensible. And then as soon as that's done, now all of a sudden you can build it. When you click this, so assuming that you have set this to DVD image and you've set a location for it to build, and you click build, it's going to say, oh, the project has problems because when we checked it, it was not connected. So they even warn you to make sure that you don't screw around. So now let's go back and reset that link to what it is. We'll check it one more time, make sure that everything's copacetic, and it is. And so now we go to build, and it will just start. Okay, so now what is it doing? Well, it's telling you, it's building all the motion menus, which is the same step that we did before when we were previewing it, and I clicked the little button on the side that started this build, this mini build of the background videos and the thumbnail videos are all being rendered right now so that they can play in, you know, as part of the image itself. This takes a little time. So it's not it's something to get up and take a moment, especially when it's doing transcoding. In this case, because transcoding's already been done, it's going a little bit faster. So it's it should be, yeah, it's still building. Okay, so it's still doing, and now it's writing the file. So once it has built everything, then it's going to actually dump it to the ISO file. So now if we go look on our desktop, you'll see that there is an ISO file in place. It's sized at 300 or 436 megabytes. It's because the container's been built, it's now stuffing the data into it. So it's not like this is growing in size. This is a fixed size right here. It's just writing the data that it needs to it. So once it's done, this image should be ready to go, and then we can view it. Okay, do a moment of hand waving. Maybe I'll take a drink of water. Any questions? How many of you guys have built a disc like this? A DVD with an ISO to an ISO target. I know building the flash version of this, okay. I have not ever built, well, no, I can't say that I've not ever built. I built it once, and then I never built another one after that, because I wanted to see what it did, and I saw what it did, and I said, who the heck would use this? And again, to remind you that Flash DVDs in Encore, Flash is not supported by any modern browser, you know, natively, and certainly not in plugin form. So, you know, it's kind of a dead end in terms of distribution. So just think of it as like, you should not ever really ever create a Flash DVD. So I wish that people could not select that, but I can't, so there we are. Okay, so now we've got our ISO. What now? There's a couple things that we can do with this. We can burn this to an image, or we can burn this to a disk. And so in this case, you would, in this case, I would actually, on a Mac, you would use disk utility. In Windows, you should just be able to right click on this, and if you have a disk in a writable disk in a drive, it should say burn image or burn ISO to disk. I think that the same issue is that if I had a writable disk in a drive, this would show up. But let's open up disk utility on the Mac, and we'll drag this over here, or maybe we won't, because I don't understand disk utility anymore. So images, new image, open disk image. That's what we're going to do. Okay, so then we go to desktop, ISO, open. Okay, so now it actually is going to open it and mount it to my computer. The thing that we also could do is that if we had, again, a blank DVD in here, this would be an option. This ISO would be an option for us to apply to that, or to burn onto that that disk media. Anybody got a blank DVD? No?
At home.
Well, at home, that doesn't help me, does it? All right.
Goodbye.
Because I have a Blu-ray player here. We could burn a disc if I had a disc, but I don't have a disc, so I'm not going to do it. Because, you know, it's how much I love Encore. But the idea of going from a disc image to burning onto a disc, crap. I feel somewhat responsible, like I should show you this. How many of you guys want me to show you how to do that next week? 2, 3, 4. That's enough. All right, I'll do it. I'll bring in some media next week, and we'll burn a DVD. Okay, it'll take about 5 minutes. With this size, it won't take long. Maybe 10. But the idea is that at 435 megs, this is 10% the size of a DVD in terms of format. And if you think about how long, how much time that you can put on a DVD in terms of video is anywhere from 70 to 90 minutes. You can sometimes encode it so that it's 120. But you know, you run up against that. That's why really long films end up on dual layer DVDs, or they get weirdly chopped up, and you have to, you know, it's a two-sided DVD where you have to flip the disc over. How many of you guys have ever seen those sorts of deals? I mean, they exist. They're out there. It's not super complicated. But so long, once you get your video to a certain length, you start to run up against the limitations of the 4.7 gig DVD format. And so you have to start to make some sacrifices or alternate decisions on how to make it work on that, on maybe a dual layer or two-sided or some other thing. Okay, so when you look at that, 435 is about, you know, it's about a 10-minute video or 7-minute video plus a little bit extra. So this is gonna take roughly on a DVD burner that does like a 16x burn. This is literally gonna take like 5 minutes, soup to nuts, including closing the disc, to be able to burn the disc. So most modern DVD writers are very fast. They knock DVDs out really fast, and they're you know, it's really old technology now. So it's not something that is like woo cutting edge. Blu-ray is a little different animal. I mean, there's now much larger Blu-ray formats even than just the regular Blu-ray. There's 3D through Blu-ray. There's 4K Blu-ray. All this other garbage, whatever. It still doesn't excuse the fact that the format is still a dinosaur that's just hasn't realized it's dead yet. Okay, enough pontificating. What I'm going to do now is let's load this thing up. So now that you know, supposing that you burned, and we'll do that next week so that you can see how it does. We will now test it, right? So what you want to do, or maybe before you burn it, you test it. What do you think? In order to do that, you need to actually mount this as a drive, and you just do that usually with either Windows or Mac. You'll double click on the ISO, and it's going to mount that as a disk. And the way you'll know is that you'll see the disk show up, and then there'll be this video_TS folder. You don't need to go in and look at it. You can. It's not much to see. It's just a bunch of, you know, oddly named files. But you'll see that there's bits and pieces in there, so you got to be, you know, you'll understand. So now that it's mounted, you can run a DVD player. In the Mac, it's called DVD Player. And as soon as you do that, it launches the DVD that's mounted. So even though it's an ISO file that's on my hard drive, it plays just like a DVD in terms of how it behaves for video. And I apologize. It looks like on the stream this is not coming through, so don't mind the gray. I'll try and come up with something else. But what we're looking at is the play menu, where there's the main menu, and here's the play movie, and here's chapters. If we click on chapters, it's going to open a second menu that we can look at. And actually, you know what? I think if I go this way, maybe that. Let's see if that actually makes it work for our YouTube friends. I'm waiting for my video to catch up. So okay, yeah, it kind of does work. So we'll stick with it. No, it goes back to being gray. Whatever. So the idea is that you're playing the disc right here in the DVD player, and it's showing you the menu that we've got. It's showing you all of the video thumbnails are playing. The background video is playing. So it's a pretty tidy little thing. So as soon as you click on one of them, it's going to launch whatever this is. Okay. So again, this is what he did for, and he's a very capable guy in terms of motion graphics and editing. So this is beyond most, you know, I'm not expecting your, I mean, if you do work like this, I would be thrilled. But you can see that he did some motion tracking on the opening sequence. He pulled his own footage together. I think this is some of his own footage this is some stock footage that he licensed. And so there you go. Okay. So NSA satellite. Okay. He took some creative license. I'll give you that. He put a lens flare on my video. Oh my God. Ugh. All right. Sexing up midnight cows. All right. This is definitely one way to do it.
I'm just wondering how I got the footage to look so good.
Because he basically was using, he's a longtime editor, and he has a big library of stock footage that he's already got. So he was like, yeah, he just went to town on this. And I don't expect you guys to do this level of stuff.
I tried to do like color correction for that image also, but it still looks like crap.
Yeah, well, it's a thing. So one technique that you could use on which is, it's not this gets into After Effects again, but you could take this footage, this terribly underexposed footage, and you could duplicate it onto itself and then use a blend mode like screen or something like that, or lighten, and it would actually brighten the image where it's brighter. And so that's one technique that you could use to do. It's not always the best technique, but again, your mileage may always vary. I'm not going to go through the whole video, but I will say that he did. He rotoscoped my interview because he hated the background so much, and I didn't blame him. It was like, so he came up with his own motion sequence for the deaths by he's got the little skull and crossbones in the background. It's great fun. So yeah, there you go. I don't, again, this is not your part of your you're not expected to do quite this much. He went a step beyond, but that was because he was having fun with it. Okay. Now that is, so what you want to make sure when you do this is that you check all of your buttons. So if you have buttons like this, where it's like, it's gonna go show me all of my, see, it's like, and then he just tells that, but again, this is not what you would need to come up with, but it's all his own materials and tested the ISO file. So it's like, it's kind of a cool little add-on. I don't expect that either, but again, it's the minimum that's showing here is a motion background with motion thumbnails, a chapter menu with motion. Would be nice to have a motion background and motion thumbnails that are linked to chapter markers. Do better with the highlight than he did. That would be my honest feedback there. And yeah, that's, so once you've tested it and you know that disk image behaves okay for you in your DVD playing application, turn that thing in, because that's what the first thing I'm gonna do with your project is I'm gonna put your ISO, I'm gonna load it up, I'm gonna put it in a DVD player, I'm gonna play it. And then I'm going to assess I'm going to start making decisions about how to grade your project based on how that ISO plays. So from that perspective, it's like, it's a big deal to make sure that your disc plays well. Because if it plays horribly or if it's broken, I'm going to go start figuring out why it's broken. And then I'm going to be like, wow, okay. And then your grade starts to suffer from that point forward. So I don't need to tell you that this grade was an A, despite the fact that it didn't have motion tiles. It had plenty of motion graphics in there and so much additional garbage that I was just like, yeah, okay, you did the class. He was doing it for credit anyway. It's not like he needed a grade. But the point of this is that the playing of that ISO was all I needed to see to know he did all of the elements. Okay, did that help to see that? Okay. Don't be scared of the fact that this is overbuilt. This particular one is intimidating, even to me. I look at that, I'm like, Jesus, dude, you took way too much time to work on this. I don't expect your projects to look like this one, okay? I do not. And you can get an A and not have a project that look like that, okay? Don't freak out. It just needs to have the elements that are in the list of stuff that I needed to see. If I see all those elements, then it's all good. If things are starting to things turn up missing or not connected well, then I start to ask questions. I'm starting to think, okay, if I don't notice that there's any motion graphics elements, I'm going to go open up your project and see and look in the After Effects projects and say, oh, is there in the comps, are there these elements? I mean, if I can clearly see them, I don't need to go spelunking into your project files to find it. But if I don't find them, if they're not visible, then yeah, that's what I start doing. As I start going, oh, I gotta pay more attention. This is just like a building inspector, right? I mean, building inspector walks onto a job site. This is a weird story, but what the hell? Building inspector walks onto a job site, sees that everything is ship shape, everything is tidy. You know, everywhere he looks, the job, the work being done is professional quality. It's everything's tied off, everything's labeled, everything's showing correctly. There's no glaring thing. Building inspector signs off, walks away. 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops. I've been with building inspectors that have done that. They walk on, they look, they go, yeah, these guys know what they're doing. Sign off. Doesn't have to look at the rest of the job because he knows they've done their homework. Now, go onto a job site. It's a disaster. Things are haphazard. Things look random. It doesn't look tidy, or it doesn't look like the quality of the work is professional grade, or there's some glare. There's some things that at a glance you can see are wrong. Then the inspector goes, okay, let's dig in, and then you get raked over the coals. Okay? It is the same thing in this case. If you can clearly demonstrate just through me playing an ISO of your project that you've done everything, then you've done everything. You provide me the backup material in case I feel I need to go look for it. But if I don't have to go look for it, guess what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to go looking for it. Are you crazy? I got kids. I got weekends. Come on. Really? Be nice. So don't, take this as an idea of what to aspire to without necessarily having to go to this length. Okay, so it is now 10 after 9. I have gone through everything I intend to talk about on Encore. Are there any final questions or comments about this? Coleman, you were starting to wave. No? Okay. You were like, woohoo, yay! Oh, you're doing the cheer, the soundless cheer. Okay, so then that's it. Thank you all for coming tonight. Next week we're going to be talking about video encoding for the web. So don't forget to show up, and we're going to talk about some dangerous things. Should be fun.
When you're uploading the semester project, like all the assets,
Yeah.
Can I take the 540p or?
Yeah. Take 540p project. It's much smaller. It's only 8 gigs instead of like 20, 23. Do yourself a favor. What's that?
4 minutes.
4? 4 whole minutes? You gonna make it? Jeez, you guys, man, so jaded. All right, shutting this thing down.
How can I get the templates or like
Templates for
like
you talking about this?
the properties on libraries and Encore?
Libraries in Encore?
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be this content right here. That's this file.
and I want to get just kind of assets. I don't know how. Is that template?
Well, hang on. Well, you show me what is your stuff already shut down? Yeah, it's already shut down. Okay. So I'm going to open this back up. Are you talking about
Yeah,
this stuff?
those stuff. How can I get those?
How can you get them? They're in this zip file right here. That's what
On my
this,
laptop. Can I?
Yeah.
Can I download it?
You can download that.
Okay.
You can get it from Encore. You can get it from Adobe. It's on the server. You can download it from the server to a drive or
Okay.
something like that. But yeah, you can get this from Adobe.
Uh-huh.
All you got to do is search for
Yeah, I forgot
yeah,
how to
this.
type it.
What I did was like Encore CS6 content. Okay. And then it's like that's all you got to put, and then the first link takes you right to where you can download it.
Okay.
And hey, you can download in Japanese too.
Yeah.
But please download English. I do know some Japanese, not enough to open a wet paper bag though. So,
Okay.
okay,
I'll look it up.
okay,
Thank you so much.
all right,
Thanks so much, Randy. See you next time.
all right. See ya. 2 minutes. Oh God, killing me here.
It is.
You guys, how do you make it happen?
It's like 2 minutes of my life.
2 whole minutes of your life will never get back. All right, shutting down the stream. Hope everybody has a peachy evening.